The rain sliced through the neon glow of Aurora City like digital daggers, casting prismatic reflections across the neo-Gothic spires that pierced the polluted skyline. Alara Hayes adjusted her neural interface, feeling the familiar tingle as it synchronized with her cerebral implant. The year 2275 had brought humanity many gifts. Immortality wasn't one of them, but memory manipulation was close enough. "System check complete," she whispered to herself, watching as holographic displays illuminated her underground laboratory. Each screen reflected fragments of her life's work, algorithms designed to restore what Mindtech had taken from countless citizens, their memories. Alara wasn't supposed to exist, at least, not as she was now. 5 years ago, her family had been edited in what Mindtech labeled a routine calibration incident. Her parents and younger brother hadn't died in the traditional sense. Their bodies continued to function, but everything that made them had been systematically erased, replaced with fabricated personalities deemed more socially harmonious. The official report called it an unfortunate error, unavoidable casualties in humanity's march toward a perfect society. She called it murder. Neural pathway reconstruction at 78%, announced the artificial intelligence assistant she had programmed herself, carefully designed to operate independently of Aurora's ubiquitous surveillance systems. Memory sequence stabilization improving, temporal consistency still fluctuating. Alara's fingers danced across the holographic interface, adjusting parameters with the precision of a concert pianist. She wasn't just an engineer. She was an artist painting with the colors of human consciousness. Each memory she rescued was a brushstroke against Mindtech's canvas of control. "Run Diagnostic Sequence Alpha 9, she commanded, reaching for a vial containing a luminescent blue liquid, memory stabilizer, harvested from her own cerebrospinal fluid. The substance was illegal, of course. In Aurora, personal memory extraction was a Class 1 violation, punishable by complete cognitive reprogramming. Across the city, in the gleaming headquarters of Mindtech Corporation, Marcus Reed stood before a wall of screens, his reflection fragmented across dozens of displays. His uniform, black with silver trim, marked him as one of the elite memory enforcement officers. Though few citizens ever saw his face, his work happened in the shadows, in the spaces between consciousness and oblivion. "Agent Reed!" Director Solomon's voice filled the room, deep and measured. The tall, silver-haired man materialized from behind a privacy screen, his immaculate white suit a stark contrast to the darkness surrounding them. "Your performance reviews continue to exceed expectations. The board is pleased." Marcus nodded, maintaining the perfect posture drilled into him during his decade of service. "Thank you, Director. We have a priority assignment," Solomon continued, waving his hand to bring up a three-dimensional rendering of a woman's face. Alara Hayes. "She's developing unauthorized memory restoration technology. Intelligence suggests she's close to a breakthrough that could undermine our entire operation." Marcus studied the hologram. Something about her eyes, intense, determined, struck him as familiar, though he couldn't place why. A strange discomfort settled in his chest, like the phantom pain from a limb long since removed. "Her personal history?" he asked, maintaining professional detachment. "Family was part of recalibration batch J473, standard procedure after their involvement in the memory freedom protests." Solomon's voice revealed nothing, as if discussing inventory rather than human lives. "She wasn't present during the recalibration. By the time we identified her, she'd gone underground, literally. She's operating from somewhere in the old subway tunnels beneath the Eastern Quarter." Marcus absorbed the information with practiced efficiency. "Surveillance level?" "Maximum. We've lost 3 tracking devices already. She's clever. Former Mindtech researcher. Ironically, specialized in memory architecture before her. Radicalization. Solomon handed Marcus a small, metallic disk. This contains your mission parameters. Complete memory extraction and rewrite. Nothing remains, especially her research. Marcus accepted the disk, fighting the unusual hesitation he felt. After hundreds of similar assignments, why did this one feel different? You have 48 hours, Solomon added. After that, we implement Protocol Sundown. Marcus knew what that meant. Protocol Sundown was Mindtech's nuclear option, a targeted electromagnetic pulse that would destroy not just Alara's research, but her entire neural network. Brain death disguised as stroke, clean, untraceable, monstrous. Understood, Marcus replied, pocketing the mission disk. I'll begin immediately. As he left the sterile confines of Mindtech Tower, Marcus gazed up at the artificial aurora that gave the city its name. Waves of manufactured color designed to soothe the population and enhance compliance with memory adjustment protocols. The beauty was undeniable, yet hollow, like so much in Aurora. He didn't acknowledge the question forming in the recesses of his mind. When had he started seeing the flaws in the system he'd sworn to protect? Back in her laboratory, Alara worked feverishly, aware that her time was running short. Mindtech's algorithms were hunting her, and eventually they would succeed. Her only hope was completing her memory restoration prototype before they found her. Final sequence locked, she murmured, inserting the vial of stabilizer into a centrifugal chamber. The machine hummed to life, separating and recombining the neural proteins that served as the foundation of her work. A soft chime alerted her to movement in the outer tunnel. Someone had triggered her proximity sensors. Alara froze, hand hovering over the emergency purge button that would destroy all her research in seconds. Identify, she commanded her security system. The screen flickered to life, showing a tall figure moving through the abandoned subway tunnel leading to her laboratory. Male, Mindtech uniform, armed. They had found her sooner than expected. Alara initiated lockdown protocols, sealing reinforced doors throughout her underground sanctuary. She had prepared for this moment, establishing multiple escape routes and countermeasures. What she hadn't prepared for was the strange familiarity she felt watching the agent's methodical approach. Something in his movement pattern triggered a response in her limbic system, recognition without memory. Marcus navigated the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Aurora with practiced efficiency, following the faint electromagnetic signature of active technology. Mindtech's intelligence had been correct. Alara Hayes had established a sophisticated operation in the forgotten infrastructure of old Aurora. His neural implant detected active security systems ahead, primitive by Mindtech standards but effective. He deployed a pulse disruptor, temporarily neutralizing the electronic surveillance. The first barrier would be the easiest. He knew Alara would have layered her defenses. As he approached a reinforced door, Marcus activated his neural link to Mindtech's central database, downloading architectural schematics of the tunnel system. According to the data, he could bypass the main entrance by accessing a maintenance shaft 2 sections back. What the schematics didn't show was the trap Alara had set, a localized EMP designed to disable any active neural implants. The moment Marcus stepped into the intersection, the device triggered. Pain exploded behind his eyes as his neural link to Mindtech severed abruptly. For several disorienting seconds, he experienced something rare in his line of work: complete neural autonomy. His thoughts entirely his own, without Mindtech's ever-present filtering algorithms. In that moment of clarity, a memory fragment surfaced, a young woman's voice, warm and determined. "Stay with me. Focus on my voice. You're going to be okay." The memory vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving Marcus gasping against the tunnel wall, his training reasserting control over the momentary weakness. He recalibrated his neural implant, re-establishing the connection to Mindtech. though something felt different, as if a door once locked had been left slightly ajar. Alara watched the agent recover from her EMP trap more quickly than expected. Most Mindtech operatives were incapacitated for at least 10 minutes after neural disruption. This one was moving again in less than 3. Whoever they had sent was elite. Perhaps even Memory Division, the most dangerous of Mindtech's enforcement branches. She needed to move, grabbing her emergency pack and the crucial memory core containing her research. Alara activated her backup plan, a cascading system failure that would flood the main laboratory with harmless, but visually impenetrable smoke, while opening a concealed exit route through the eastern maintenance tunnel. As alarms blared and smoke billowed, Alara slipped through the hidden passage, her heart pounding against her ribcage. She had practiced this escape countless times, could navigate it blindfolded if necessary. But the knowledge that a Mindtech agent was pursuing her added a terrifying urgency to each step. Behind her, Marcus breached the laboratory just as the smoke reached maximum density. His enhanced vision compensated partially, revealing abandoned equipment and still active computer terminals. The target had fled, but her research remained, exactly what his mission prioritized. He approached the central processing unit, preparing to extract and then destroy the data. As his fingers connected with the interface, a holographic message activated. Alara's face, looking directly at him with unnerving intensity. "If you're watching this, I'm already gone." Her recorded image stated, "Whatever Mindtech has told you about me is a lie. They don't protect society. They control it. They don't edit memories. They steal them." Marcus should have terminated the message immediately, as protocol demanded. Instead, he found himself frozen, transfixed by her voice. It resonated within him, activating neural pathways long dormant. "I know you believe you're serving a greater good," the hologram continued. "But ask yourself, why can't you remember your life before Mindtech? Why do certain thoughts feel prohibited? That's not protection. That's prison." The message ended, leaving Marcus in unsettling silence. He should dismiss her words as standard dissident propaganda, yet they clung to him like spider silk, delicate but surprisingly difficult to break. Completing his mission objectives, Marcus downloaded the research data and initiated the destruction sequence for the laboratory equipment. As the system began its countdown, he followed Alara's escape route, determined to complete all mission parameters, including the capture and memory extraction of Alara Hayes herself. What he couldn't explain, even to himself, was why a part of him hoped she would evade him. Alara emerged from the maintenance tunnel into the chaotic underbelly of Aurora's eastern quarter, a maze of narrow streets where the city's carefully cultivated aesthetic gave way to desperate authenticity. Here, among the forgotten and the rebellious, Mindtech's influence weakened slightly, creating pockets of genuine human connection among those who couldn't afford regular, emotional optimization. She navigated the crowded marketplace, where vendors sold everything from synthetic food to black market memory chips containing experiences deemed unnecessarily stimulating by Mindtech's content regulators. Her destination was a safe house operated by Lena Chen, a former AI technician who had defected from Mindtech after discovering her own memories had been altered. "You look terrible," Lena observed as Alara slipped through the hidden entrance of what appeared to be an abandoned noodle shop. The petite woman's fingers never stopped moving, manipulating holographic code structures even as she spoke. "Laboratory compromised?" "Completely," Alara confirmed, setting down her pack and extracting the memory core. "Mindtech sent someone new, more efficient than the usual enforcers. I barely had time to activate the emergency protocols." Lena's expression darkened. Description: tall, precision movement, recovered from neural disruption in minutes instead of hours. "Memory division," Lena concluded, her fingers faltering momentarily. They only deploy those agents for high-priority targets. You must be closer to a breakthrough than you've admitted. Alara connected the memory core to Lena's secure system, watching as the data transferred. The restoration algorithm is stabilizing. In my last test, I achieved 87% recovery of targeted memories without neural degradation. Lena whistled softly. That would be enough to unravel everything Mindtech has built, Alara finished. If people could recover what's been taken from them. Revolution, Lena said simply. But you need to survive long enough to complete the work. If memory division is involved, you can't stay here. My security won't hold against their tracking capabilities. I just need 12 hours to finalize the algorithm, Alara insisted. Then, we can distribute it through the underground network. Lena looked unconvinced but nodded reluctantly. I'll reconfigure our defensive systems. And Alara, be careful. Memory agents aren't just physically dangerous. They can extract information directly from your neural network with just physical contact. Meanwhile, Marcus had emerged into the eastern quarter, his neural implant recalibrated to filter the overwhelming sensory input of the district. Mindtech maintained less visible presence here, preferring remote surveillance to direct intervention. The corporation's internal metrics had determined that occasional pockets of controlled dissent actually strengthened overall compliance. Pressure valves for societal frustrations. His implant detected trace elements of the specialized coolant used in Alara's memory core, creating a faint trail through the crowded streets. As he followed it, Marcus became increasingly aware of an unsettling phenomenon. Momentary neural spikes occurring whenever he focused on Alara's recorded voice in his memory. Standard Mindtech protocols required agents to report unusual neural activity immediately. Marcus found himself, for the first time in his career, deliberately avoiding this requirement. Something about this assignment, this target, bypassed his conditioned responses. The coolant trail led to a seemingly abandoned commercial building, its faded exterior concealing recent modifications, power consumption inconsistent with vacancy, subtle reinforcement of entry points, distortion fields to confuse surveillance drones. A safe house, likely connected to the Memory Liberation Network Mindtech, had been tracking for months. Marcus established a perimeter, analyzing potential entry points while maintaining sensory awareness of his surroundings. The Eastern Quarter housed many who had reason to be wary of Mindtech agents. Direct confrontation would be inefficient and potentially compromise his mission. Inside the safe house, Alara worked frantically. Her consciousness split between completing the algorithm and planning her next move. The memory restoration technology represented more than scientific achievement. It was personal redemption. If she succeeded, she could restore her family, give them back the lives Mindtech had stolen. Security breach, Lena announced suddenly, her voice unnaturally calm, the tone of someone accustomed to crisis. Perimeter sensors detected Mindtech scanning frequencies. We have minutes, maybe less. Alara's hands never stopped moving across the interface. I need more time. The final sequence requires precise calibration. Then I'll buy you time, Lena decided, activating a secondary system. Deploying countermeasures. Electromagnetic disruption in 3, 2, 1. Outside, Marcus detected the sudden surge of energy moments before his neural implant failed again, this time by design rather than ambush. The safe house had deployed localized jamming technology, creating a dead zone for all Mindtech communication and surveillance. Protocol dictated immediate withdrawal to restore connection with Central Command. Instead, Marcus found himself moving closer, drawn by an imperative he couldn't identify. In this moment of neural autonomy, the fragmentary memory returned stronger. Focus on my voice. Stay with me. The neural damage isn't permanent if we act quickly. The voice was Alara's. He was certain now, but the context remained elusive. When had she spoken those words to him? Why did they resonate so deeply? Mindtech's memory enforcement agents underwent regular neural scrubbing to prevent emotional attachments to targets. Yet something had survived the procedure. Marcus breached the safe house through a maintenance access point, moving silently through the darkened interior. His enhanced senses detected two distinct patterns of movement. One person, stationary, at what appeared to be a computer terminal. Another, moving methodically through the building, likely setting additional countermeasures. He chose to pursue the stationary target first. Alara sensed, rather than heard, the presence behind her. A shift in air pressure, the subtle electromagnetic disturbance of another neural implant within proximity. She didn't turn, knowing any interruption to the final algorithm sequence would corrupt the entire process. "Whatever you're planning," she said evenly. "I need 90 more seconds. Then you can do whatever Mindtech sent you to do." Marcus should have incapacitated her immediately. Every moment of hesitation increased mission risk. Yet he found himself rooted in place, studying the back of her head, the determined set of her shoulders. "You know why I'm here," he stated, neither question nor threat. "To erase me," Alara replied, fingers still moving across the interface. "To take everything I am and replace it with something more convenient for Mindtech. 60 seconds. Your research violates fundamental stability protocols," Marcus recited, the words feeling hollow even as he spoke them. "Memory editing prevents societal discord and personal trauma." Alara gave a short, bitter laugh. "Is that what they told you? That they're protecting people from their own memories?" She still hadn't turned to face him. 30 seconds. Marcus stepped closer, close enough to initiate neural extraction. "What you're doing will destabilize the entire system." "The system deserves to collapse." 10 seconds remained in her countdown. "People deserve to remember, even the painful parts, especially those." The algorithm completed with a soft chime. Only then did Alara turn, facing her pursuer directly for the first time. Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them, recognition that transcended conscious memory. Marcus felt neural pathways activating that should have been dormant, connections forming that Mindtech's conditioning had supposedly erased. "You," Alara whispered, her expression shifting from determination to shock. "I know you." Before Marcus could respond, Lena appeared in the doorway, a neural disruptor aimed at his head. "Step away from her, Agent." The momentary distraction was enough. Alara activated the completed algorithm, transferring it to a neural implant designed for direct cerebral interface. In one fluid motion, she pressed the device against her temple, initiating the memory restoration process on herself, the most dangerous and untested application of her technology. Pain exploded behind her eyes as suppressed memories fought to resurface. Her body convulsed, neural pathways rewiring themselves against Mindtech's blocks. Through the haze of agony, she saw Marcus move, not toward her, but toward Lena, disarming the other woman with frightening efficiency. As consciousness began to fade, Alara heard herself speaking. No, not herself now, but a memory of herself from years earlier. "My name is Alara Hayes. I'm a neural surgeon. You've suffered severe trauma, but I can help you. Agent. Marcus Reed, is it? Focus on my voice. Stay with me." Then darkness claimed her. Marcus caught Alara as she collapsed, her neural implant pulsing with dangerous levels of activity. He should complete his mission, extract her research, erase her memories, return her to Mindtech for reprogramming. Instead, he found himself checking her vital signs, ensuring her neural crisis hadn't caused permanent damage. Lena had retreated to a defensive position, clearly expecting him to harm Alara. "Whatever you're planning, she's already activated the algorithm. The data is being transmitted to our network as we speak." Marcus ignored her, focused on Alara's rapid eye movement, indication of intense memory processing. "What has she done to herself?" "Restored what Mindtech took," Lena answered cautiously. She's remembering everything. She'll die if the neural load isn't stabilized, Marcus stated. Medical knowledge he shouldn't possess surfacing with startling clarity. I need a cerebral stabilizer. Now. Lena hesitated, suspicion warring with concern for her friend. Why would you help her? Marcus had no answer that made sense within his training. I don't know, he admitted, but I know how to save her. Something in his voice must have convinced Lena. She moved to a storage unit, retrieving a medical kit. Here, but I'll be watching you, Agent. Marcus administered the stabilizer with practiced precision, monitoring Alara's neural responses. As her condition stabilized, fragmented memories continued to surface in his own mind. A hospital room, a neural regeneration chamber, a young doctor working frantically to repair catastrophic damage to his cerebral cortex. Alara Hayes. Not a target, but his savior, from before Mindtech, before his memories had been sanitized and repurposed. She knew me, he murmured, more to himself than to Lena. Before. Mindtech doesn't recruit, Lena said quietly. They capture and reprogram. Their enforcement agents are all people who threaten them somehow, converted into weapons against their former allies. The truth of her words resonated with the fragments emerging in Marcus's consciousness. He had been someone else once, not an enforcement agent but a researcher, perhaps, or an activist. Someone Mindtech had considered dangerous enough to remake entirely. Alara stirred, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment, confusion clouded her features. Then recognition dawned, deeper and more complete than before. Marcus, she whispered, voice raw with emotion. They took you. After the accident, when I was treating your neural trauma, they took you from my medical facility. I thought you had died. Marcus struggled to integrate this information with his fractured self-knowledge. I don't remember. You will, Alara promised, struggling to sit up despite her weakness. My algorithm doesn't just restore memories. It breaks Mindtech's neural conditioning. The process has already started for you. I can see it in your neural patterns. Lena interrupted urgently. Mindtech reinforcements will be here soon. We need to move. The professional agent in Marcus, the identity built through years of conditioning, urged him to complete his mission. Capture the target, secure the research, return to Mindtech. But the emerging fragments of his true self pulled him in the opposite direction. He made his decision. I know a secure location, he said, helping Alara to her feet. A blind spot in Mindtech's surveillance network. We can go there. But we need to move now. Lena looked skeptical. Why would we trust you? Because he's remembering, Alara answered, her eyes never leaving Marcus's face. And because we don't have a choice. As they prepared to leave the compromised safe house, Marcus received an automated neural alert. Protocol Sundown had been initiated. Mindtech had decided Alara was too dangerous to capture. They now intended to eliminate her entirely. We have less than 30 minutes, he warned, the urgency in his voice unmistakable. They've activated Sundown. Alara's face paled. They're going to burn this entire sector just to get to me? Not the sector, just you. Marcus hesitated, then added, and now me, once they realize I've gone off protocol. They moved through the eastern quarter's labyrinthine streets, Marcus leading them through blind spots in the surveillance network. His intimate knowledge of Mindtech's systems, once his greatest asset as an agent, now became their shield against detection. Alara struggled to process the flood of restored memories while maintaining enough awareness to navigate their escape. The algorithm had worked more effectively than she had dared hope, bringing back not just isolated moments, but entire neural frameworks, connections and emotions she had been forced to forget, including her connection to Marcus Reed. 7 years ago, he had been brought to her neural trauma center after a suspicious accident, catastrophic damage to his cerebral implant that should have been fatal. For weeks, she had worked to save him using experimental techniques to rebuild his neural architecture. During his recovery, they had developed a relationship that transcended doctor and patient, intellectual equals, drawn together by shared ideals about neural autonomy and memory rights. Then, he had disappeared from her facility overnight, all records of his treatment erased. She had searched for months before accepting the official story that he had died from delayed trauma complications. In reality, MindTech had taken him, identified his unique neural resilience, and marked him for repurposing as an enforcement agent. They had erased his identity, his beliefs, his connection to Alara, replacing them with conditioned loyalty and specialized combat skills. Yet something had survived their programming. The neural pathways Alara had painstakingly reconstructed during his treatment had proven too robust for complete erasure. Her voice, specifically, had created a trigger point in his neural architecture that MindTech had failed to detect and remove. "Here," Marcus announced, interrupting her thoughts as they reached a nondescript maintenance door embedded in the base of an abandoned cooling tower. He placed his palm against a concealed scanner, and the door slid open to reveal a narrow passage. This leads to a self-contained maintenance hub, shielded against all external signals, including Protocol Sundown's targeting parameters. Lena entered first, her technical expertise immediately drawn to the antiquated but functional equipment filling the circular chamber beyond. "This is old system tech, pre-MindTech integration. How did you find this place?" "I didn't find it," Marcus admitted, as he sealed the door behind them. "I built it. At least, that's what the emerging memories suggest. A contingency I created, but was forced to forget." Alara moved to the center of the room, where a neural interface station stood, more sophisticated than its aged surroundings would suggest. "You were preparing for something," she observed, "even before your conversion." Marcus approached the interface hesitantly, fragments of purpose returning as he touched the controls. "I was working on something called neural sovereignty, a countermeasure against memory manipulation. That's why MindTech targeted me. Your restoration algorithm is completing what I started." Outside their sanctuary, Protocol Sundown deployed, a precision electromagnetic pulse designed to destroy Alara's specific neural signature. It swept through the eastern quarter, harmlessly passing over most citizens while searching for its designated target. Within the shielded maintenance hub, Alara worked quickly to stabilize her algorithm, using the equipment Marcus had hidden away years earlier. The combined knowledge of both their original specialties, her neural reconstruction expertise, and his countermeasure designs, created a synergy neither could have achieved alone. "If we can broadcast this algorithm through Aurora's neural network," Alara explained as they worked, "it won't just restore individual memories. It will disable MindTech's entire control infrastructure." "That would mean chaos," Lena cautioned. "Millions of people suddenly remembering everything that was taken from them. Grief, trauma, rage, and joy," Marcus added quietly, "and love, and purpose. Everything that makes us human instead of managed assets." As they refined the broadcast parameters, Marcus experienced increasingly complete memory restoration, his life before MindTech reasserting itself against his programmed identity. The process was disorienting, sometimes painful, as contradictory neural pathways competed for dominance. "Your conditioning is fighting the restoration," Alara observed, monitoring his neural patterns on a diagnostic display. "MindTech designed you to resist exactly this kind of intervention." Marcus gripped the edge of the console, steadying himself against a wave of neural feedback. "Keep going. It's working." Hour by hour, they prepared for what would amount to a citywide neural revolution. Lena established secure connections to underground networks throughout Aurora, creating distribution channels for the algorithm once completed. Marcus recovered more of his original knowledge, integrating it with the tactical expertise forced upon him by MindTech to create unprecedented counter-surveillance measures. and Alara finalized the algorithm, strengthening its restoration capabilities while minimizing the neurological shock that had nearly killed her during her own accelerated process. Their work was interrupted by a priority alert on Marcus's emergency channel, the one communication line he had maintained as a precaution. Director Solomon's voice filled the small chamber. "Agent Reed, your neural signature indicates significant deviation from operational parameters. Return to Mindtech Tower immediately for recalibration. Failure to comply will result in remote deactivation of your cerebral implant. You have 1 hour to acknowledge." The threat was clear. Return to Mindtech for mind wiping, or die when they remotely shut down the implant, integrated with his vital functions. "They can't locate us," Marcus assured the others. "But they can still reach my implant. It's designed with a kill switch only senior directors can activate." "Can you remove it?" Lena asked. Marcus shook his head. "Not without specialized equipment. The integration with my neural system is too complete." Alara studied him. Memories of their past connection, bringing both professional knowledge and personal determination to the surface. "I treated your original neural trauma," she reminded him. "I can modify your implant to reject the kill signal." "That would require surgical precision we don't have equipment for," Marcus objected. "We have enough," Alara insisted. "Lena can assist, but we need to act quickly." What followed was a procedure that blended cutting-edge neuroscience with desperate improvisation. Using the maintenance hub's medical supplies and Alara's expertise, they attempted something Mindtech had deemed impossible: the severing of an enforcement agent's control tether without triggering neural collapse. "Focus on my voice," Alara instructed as she worked, deliberately echoing the words that had created their enduring neural connection. "Stay with me, Marcus." As her fingers manipulated the delicate interface between technology and human tissue, Marcus experienced his most complete memory restoration yet, the full context of their original relationship emerging with crystalline clarity. They had been partners in more than research. Before Mindtech's intervention, they had planned a future together, one where neural sovereignty became a universal right rather than a revolutionary concept. Their personal and professional lives had intertwined until separation became impossible, which made his apparent death all the more devastating to her. And now, as she worked to save him again, Marcus recognized the cruel irony of his mission. He had been sent to erase the memories of the very person who had once saved his mind. The person whose voice had remained lodged in his consciousness, despite Mindtech's most aggressive erasure protocols. "Neural tether disengaged," Alara announced finally, her voice tight with exhaustion and relief. "The kill switch is neutralized." Marcus sat up slowly, experiencing something entirely new: complete neural autonomy. His implant now serving him rather than his Mindtech masters. "How long until the broadcast is ready?" 4 hours, Lena answered, checking their progress. "The distribution network is in place. We're just waiting for final algorithm compilation." Outside their sanctuary, Mindtech had escalated its response. Commander Huxley, Marcus's direct superior, had deployed specialized strike teams throughout the Eastern Quarter, conducting building-by-building searches, despite the political consequences of such visible enforcement action. Director Solomon had declared an emergency session of the Corporate Council, framing the situation as a terrorist threat requiring unprecedented measures. The truth, that a single researcher had created technology capable of unraveling their entire control structure, would remain strictly classified. Within the maintenance hub, the final preparations accelerated. Marcus's combat expertise, now divorced from Mindtech's control, allowed him to establish defensive measures around their position. Though their location remained hidden for now, he knew Mindtech's resources would eventually discover them. "We won't be able to stay here for the broadcast," he explained, reviewing tactical projections. "The neural transmission will create a signal spike that even our shielding can't conceal." "We'll need to split up," Lena suggested. Multiple broadcast points to ensure redundancy. Alara shook her head firmly. Too risky. The algorithm requires precise monitoring during initialization. If the neural cascade isn't properly modulated, it could cause widespread damage instead of restoration. Then we move to higher ground, Marcus decided. The old transmission tower at the city's edge. If we can reach the apex, we can broadcast across the entire neural network simultaneously. The plan was dangerous, bordering on suicidal. The transmission tower stood at the boundary between Aurora proper and the uninhabited wasteland beyond. Minimal civilian presence, but heavily monitored by automated security systems. Reaching it would require navigating through increasingly restrictive security zones, with Marcus's insider knowledge as their only advantage. Yet it offered their only chance at citywide impact. A single, powerful broadcast that could outpace Mindtech's ability to counter it. As final preparations were completed, Alara found a moment alone with Marcus, both of them acutely aware of the danger awaiting them. "I searched for you," she said quietly. "After you disappeared from my facility, I couldn't accept that you were gone." Marcus met her gaze, his eyes reflecting both his original self and the hardened agent he had been forced to become. "Part of me was searching for you too. Even when I didn't know who you were. Your voice. It was the one thing they couldn't completely erase." "If this works," Alara continued, "everyone will remember. All the connections Mindtech severed. All the identities they fragmented." "And if it fails?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she reached for his hand, the gesture bridging their interrupted past and uncertain future. "Your voice helped me remember who I was fighting for. Not just my family, not just some abstract principle of neural freedom, but the possibility that somewhere you might still exist." Their moment of connection was interrupted by Lena's urgent call. Mindtech enforcement squads are converging on the eastern quarter. They've narrowed the search grid to our sector. Time had run out. They gathered their equipment, the precious algorithm core, communication devices, and what weapons they had managed to assemble. The journey to the transmission tower would take them through the heart of Aurora, past multiple security checkpoints and surveillance zones. "Stay close," Marcus instructed, as they prepared to leave their sanctuary. "Move only when I signal. If we're separated, continue to the rendezvous point. No heroics, no deviations." Alara secured the algorithm core in a specialized container designed to mask its neural signature. "Remember," she cautioned, "the core must remain stable. Excessive movement or electromagnetic interference could corrupt the sequence." They emerged into an artificial twilight. Aurora's atmospheric controllers had initiated the transition to evening mode, bathing the city in muted purples and blues. The manufactured Aurora itself pulsed overhead, streams of color designed to induce calm and compliance. Their route took them through maintenance corridors and abandoned infrastructure, the skeletal remains of the city that had existed before Mindtech's ascendance. Marcus led them confidently, his restored memories providing insights into passages that even Mindtech's comprehensive surveillance had forgotten. As they neared the central district, however, the density of security measures increased exponentially. Automated drones patrolled in precise patterns, their sensors calibrated to detect unauthorized neural signatures. Civilian checkpoints channeled the compliant population through scanning arrays disguised as architectural features. "We can't bypass all of them," Marcus acknowledged, observing a particularly heavily monitored intersection ahead. "Some we'll have to move through directly." "How?" Lena questioned. "Our neural signatures are flagged in every Mindtech database." Marcus produced 3 small devices, neural scramblers designed to temporarily mask brain activity patterns. "These will buy us 15 minutes of anonymity. After that, the adaptive algorithms will compensate." They synchronized their movements, activating the scramblers simultaneously before entering the flow of evening commuters, moving through the central district. Around them, citizens moved with the peculiar uniformity that characterized Mindtech's influence. Not quite robotic, but lacking the natural variation of truly independent thought. Alara found herself studying these faces, people whose memories had been selectively edited for years, sometimes decades. Some showed faint traces of resistance, micro-expressions of confusion, or momentary defiance quickly suppressed by neural conditioning. Others displayed perfect compliance, their features serene in their manufactured contentment. They were halfway through the district when disaster struck. A specialized enforcement drone, newer model than Marcus had anticipated, detected anomalies in their scrambled neural patterns. An alert sounded, subtle enough not to cause public panic but unmistakable to trained personnel. "We've been flagged," Marcus warned, his voice low and urgent. "Enforcement response in approximately 2 minutes. We need to divert." He led them toward a commercial complex, a sprawling arrangement of shops and entertainment venues designed to encourage consumption while minimizing social connection. The crowd density would provide temporary cover, but Mindtech's response would only intensify. As they navigated through the complex, the first enforcement agents appeared, tactically positioned at exits and major intersections. Unlike regular security personnel, these operators moved with the same precision Marcus had once embodied, direct neural integration with Mindtech's command protocols. "The Northern Service Corridor," Marcus directed, guiding them toward a restricted access point. "My authorization codes might still work if they haven't been purged from the system." The gamble paid off. Marcus's biometric signature remained valid just long enough for them to access the service area before Mindtech's security protocols completed their update cycle. Behind them, the enforcement presence continued to grow, methodically eliminating escape routes. "We need to split up temporarily," Marcus decided as they reached a junction in the service corridor. "They're expecting us to stay together. Lena, take the utility tunnel to level 3. Alara and I will proceed through the waste management system. We'll reconvene at the eastern boundary." Lena nodded grimly, accepting the tactical necessity despite her concerns. If either group doesn't arrive within 30 minutes, the other continues to the transmission tower. As Lena disappeared into the utility access shaft, Marcus guided Alara toward a less conventional route, the pneumatic waste disposal system that connected to Aurora's recycling facilities. "This wasn't in your original plan," Alara observed, as they entered the maintenance room overlooking massive transport tubes. "Adaptation," Marcus replied simply. "Mindtech trained me to anticipate and counter resistance. Now I'm using those same skills against them." They descended into the primary transport system, a network of pressurized tubes designed to move the city's waste efficiently and invisibly. The air was stale but breathable, the environment uncomfortable but navigable. As they moved through the dimly lit tunnels, Alara monitored the algorithm core, ensuring the hostile environment didn't compromise its stability. Each step brought them closer to their objective, but also increased the danger as Mindtech's response escalated above them. "Director Solomon will have activated maximum protocols by now," Marcus explained as they navigated a particularly narrow section. "Citywide neural scanning, mandatory compliance checks, possibly even temporary suspension of personal movement rights." "All to find us?" Alara questioned. "All to find your algorithm," Marcus corrected. "Mindtech fears very little, but the prospect of losing control, of citizens suddenly remembering everything that's been taken from them, that terrifies them." Their journey through the waste system eventually brought them to the eastern boundary, a transitional zone where Aurora's gleaming architecture gave way to utilitarian infrastructure. The transmission tower loomed ahead, its skeletal form silhouetted against the manufactured skyline. Lena was waiting at the rendezvous point, her expression tight with tension. "The algorithm?" she asked immediately. "Stable," Alara confirmed, checking the core's status indicators. "Ready for broadcast once we reach the transmission apex." The final approach to the tower presented the greatest challenge yet. The structure stood in a cleared zone, its base surrounded by multiple security perimeters. Automated defense systems patrolled the area, programmed to neutralize any unauthorized presence. The tower's internal maintenance system is separate from Aurora's primary network, Marcus explained, studying the security patterns. If we can access the maintenance elevator, we can bypass the ground-level security entirely. They moved carefully through the boundary zone, using the irregular terrain to avoid detection. Marcus's tactical knowledge proved invaluable, guiding them through blind spots in the surveillance coverage. As they neared the tower's base, however, an unexpected complication emerged. A Mindtech executive transport descended from above, landing at the tower's restricted platform. Director Solomon, Marcus, identified the tall figure emerging from the vehicle. He's overseeing the response personally. That means they've predicted our target. Alara studied the situation, weighing alternatives. Can we still reach the maintenance access? Yes, but the director's presence changes the security profile. We'll need to create a diversion. Lena volunteered immediately. I can trigger a cascading failure in the perimeter systems. It won't last long, but it should draw attention away from the maintenance entrance. The plan was risky, but necessary. While Lena moved to a peripheral control junction, Marcus and Alara positioned themselves near the maintenance access point, the precious algorithm core secured between them. Seconds later, alarms blared across the security zone, as Lena's intervention caused multiple systems to register simultaneous failures. Security personnel and automated responses diverted toward the apparent breach, creating a momentary opportunity. Marcus moved first, bypassing the maintenance access controls with precision, born of both his Mindtech training and his restored knowledge of the system's vulnerabilities. Alara followed, the algorithm core clutched protectively against her chest. They entered the maintenance elevator just as Lena rejoined them, security forces already regrouping behind them. The ancient mechanism groaned to life, beginning its ascent toward the transmission apex hundreds of meters above. They'll override the elevator controls, Marcus warned, already working to isolate the system from external commands. We have minutes at most before they cut power entirely. The elevator continued its ascent, each meter bringing them closer to their objective while simultaneously trapping them more completely. Below, Mindtech forces converged on the tower base, Director Solomon coordinating a comprehensive response designed to ensure no possibility of escape. 3/4 of the way to the apex, the elevator shuddered violently as external override attempts began to penetrate Marcus's countermeasures. They're cycling through master protocols, he explained, fingers dancing across the control interface to maintain their ascent. I can't block them indefinitely. Alara made a quick calculation. How far to the broadcast array? 50 meters vertically. There's a maintenance ladder in the shaft wall if the elevator fails. The decision crystallized instantly. We climb. Now. Marcus forced the elevator doors partially open, revealing the maintenance ladder embedded in the shaft wall. As Lena secured their equipment for climbing, Alara prepared the algorithm core for its final configuration. Once we initiate the broadcast, she explained, the neural cascade will begin immediately. Mindtech might attempt to counter with suppression signals, but the restoration process, once started, is self-sustaining. The elevator jerked to a halt as Mindtech finally overcame Marcus's countermeasures. Without hesitation, they transferred to the maintenance ladder, beginning the final ascent to the transmission apex. Below them, enforcement agents had entered the elevator shaft, their enhanced capabilities allowing them to climb within human speed. The distance between pursuers and pursued narrowed with each passing second. Keep moving, Marcus urged, taking position below the others to provide whatever defense he could if the agents reached them. The broadcast only needs 30 seconds of uninterrupted transmission to initiate the cascade. They reached the apex access hatch as the first enforcement agent closed to within striking distance. Marcus engaged the pursuer. His combat training matched against an opponent identically conditioned. The resulting confrontation was a blur of precisely calculated movements. Two weapons created by the same system turned against each other. Alara and Lena emerged onto the transmission platform, a circular space dominated by the massive broadcast array that helped maintain Aurora's neural network. As Lena secured the access hatch behind them, temporarily sealing Marcus and his opponent in the shaft below, Alara connected the algorithm core to the primary transmission system. "Initialization sequence activated," she announced, monitoring the integration process. "Neural cascade in 60 seconds. On the platform's edge, the hatch burst open as Marcus emerged, bloodied but functional. "More coming," he warned, moving to secure the platform's perimeter. "How long?" 45 seconds to full broadcast," Alara responded, her focus absolute as she guided the algorithm through its final preparation stages. The tower trembled as a Mindtech transport ascended alongside it, tactical teams preparing to breach the platform directly. Director Solomon's voice echoed through external speakers. "This is your final opportunity for compliance. Surrender the technology and submit to neural recalibration. Resistance will result in terminal intervention." None of them dignified the ultimatum with a response. Marcus positioned himself between the likely breach point and the transmission array, prepared to buy whatever seconds he could against overwhelming force. 30 seconds, Alara updated, the algorithm's neural patterns synchronizing with the broadcast frequency. The first breach came from above, tactical operatives descending on cables from the hovering transport. Marcus engaged them with grim efficiency, each movement calculated to maximize defensive coverage while minimizing his own vulnerability. Lena joined the defense, using her technical knowledge to disrupt the neural integration of the attacking agents. Not enough to stop them, but sufficient to create momentary advantages Marcus could exploit. 15 seconds, Alara called, the algorithm core now pulsing with energy as it prepared to transmit. Director Solomon himself appeared at the platform edge, his white suit immaculate despite the chaos surrounding him. "You have no concept of the damage you're about to inflict," he stated, his voice eerily calm. "Societal collapse, mass neural trauma. Is that what you want?" "We want the truth," Alara responded, not looking up from her work. "Whatever consequences come with it." 10 seconds, she added, more to her companions than to Solomon. The director signaled to his remaining forces, who converged on the transmission array with single-minded purpose. Marcus intercepted them, his body a physical barrier between Mindtech and the broadcast mechanism. 5 seconds, Alara announced, the algorithm reaching final synchronization. In a desperate gambit, Solomon drew a specialized neural disruptor, a weapon designed to sever the connection between mind and body, and aimed directly at Alara. "This ends now." 3 seconds, she continued, unwavering. Marcus saw the weapon, calculated trajectories, and made his choice. He launched himself into the disruptor's path, just as Solomon fired. The neural charge meant for Alara striking him instead. Pain exploded through his consciousness as neural pathways temporarily overloaded. 2 seconds, Alara's voice continued, reaching him through the agony. Solomon realigned for a second shot. 1 second. The algorithm activated. A pulse of energy radiated from the transmission array, invisible yet more powerful than anything Mindtech had ever deployed. It cascaded through Aurora's neural network, reaching every citizen, every implant, every memory storage system simultaneously. And people began to remember. Throughout the city, individuals stopped mid-motion as suppressed memories resurfaced. Some collapsed to their knees, overwhelmed by the sudden flood of restored identity. Others stood in silent wonder as connections long severed re-established themselves. On the transmission platform, the Mindtech agents froze as their own true memories competed with their conditioning. Director Solomon staggered backward, the neural disruptor falling from suddenly uncertain fingers. "What have you done?" he whispered, his carefully constructed authority crumbling as his own past reasserted itself. Alara moved to Marcus's side, cradling his head as he recovered from the neural disruptor's effects. "Focus on my voice," she instructed, echoing the words that had connected them across years of separation. "Stay with me." Around them, Aurora transformed. The manufactured Aurora overhead flickered and failed as the atmospheric control systems lost their behavioral modification parameters. Unfiltered starlight appeared over the city for the first time in decades, real, rather than designed for compliance. In the streets below, citizens began to seek out loved ones whose connections had been edited from their memories. Parents reunited with children they had been conditioned to forget. Partners whose relationships had been deemed non-productive rediscovered one another. And everywhere, the carefully maintained social structure Mindtech had engineered began to give way to something more chaotic, but infinitely more human. A society based on genuine connection rather than manufactured harmony. Marcus regained full consciousness, his eyes focusing on Alara's face above him. "It worked." "It worked," she confirmed, helping him to a sitting position. "The neural cascade is complete. Mindtech's control protocols have been permanently disabled." Around them, the Mindtech forces had disintegrated as individuals, newly restored to themselves, abandoned their assigned roles. Even Director Solomon had retreated, his perfect composure shattered by the return of whatever identity had been suppressed to create his corporate persona. Lena joined them, her expression reflecting both exhaustion and wonder. "Reports are coming in from across the city. People are remembering everything, their real lives, their lost connections, even their suppressed dissent against Mindtech." "There will be anger," Marcus cautioned, still recovering from the neural disruption. "Decades of manipulated memories suddenly restored. The transition won't be peaceful." "But it will be real," Alara responded, her hand finding his. "Whatever comes next, it will be their genuine response, not something engineered for stability." As dawn broke over Aurora, a natural sunrise rather than the scheduled illumination Mindtech had always provided, the three of them stood at the edge of the transmission platform, witnessing the awakening of a city. Below, citizens gathered in streets and plazas, sharing stories of recovered memories, rebuilding connections that had been severed by corporate decree. Some wept openly, others laughed with the joy of rediscovery. The full spectrum of human emotion played out across a population that had been denied its richness for generations. "What now?" Lena asked, the immediate mission completed but the future uncertain. "Reconstruction," Alara answered. Mindtech didn't just take memories. They rebuilt entire social structures around their absence. People will need help integrating what they've recovered. Marcus nodded, his tactical mind already adapting to this new reality. "And protection. Mindtech's infrastructure may be compromised, but their resources remain. They'll attempt to reassert control. Then we continue," Alara decided, her voice carrying the same determination that had once guided Marcus back from neural death. The voice he had remembered even when everything else was taken from him. "We help people rebuild what was taken. We protect what they've recovered." As they descended from the transmission tower into the awakening city, Alara and Marcus moved together, their reconnection symbolic of Aurora's larger restoration. What had been artificially severed had found its way back together, not through Mindtech's engineered harmony, but through the persistent human tendency to remember, to seek, to recognize. In the distance, the Mindtech tower stood dark against the brightening sky, its power diminished but not eliminated. The struggle for Aurora's future had only begun, but it would proceed with one crucial difference. Citizens would face it with their full selves intact, their memories their own. Your voice, Marcus said quietly, as they walked through streets alive with rediscovery. Even when they took everything else, I remembered your voice. Alara smiled. The weight of years spent fighting against seemingly impossible odds finally lifting. And now everyone remembers their own voices, their own lives, around them. Aurora continued to awaken, not to the controlled existence Mindtech had designed, but to the beautiful chaos of authentic human connection. Memory by memory, voice by voice. A society rebuilt itself, not as it had been engineered to be, but as it had chosen to become.